Okay, so let's create the conditions and results to be used in our policy set. And that should be in policy set results. First, we want create a downloadable ACL. So the idea is for Linux, you should be able to access locally the local network, and for admins, they should be able to access the internet. Okay. Now I'm going to create my first dynamic ACL, and I just call it allow ACL, which is allow AD. So once the user is allow LAN ACL, this is for map authenticated users. So I'm going to permit any track, any source to 10.65.74.0, and we're going to deny any. You just have allowed to access local LAN. It's going to be allow ACL. So for domain computers, they should be allowed to access DHCP server, so 68 going to NEQ67, and they should be able to get as well UDP from 53 for name resolution, and they should be able to copy any to host 10.65.74. Okay. Oh. And if it's an admin, or if it's an admin, it's just going to, I'm going to use permit all IPv4 traffic. Now, for authorization profiles, so I have LAN authorization profile, and I'm going to get LAN ACL, and it's going to assign VLAN 10 dynamically. And for AD user, so once the domain computer is authenticated, first is going to be allowed to access just the AD. Yes, and it's going to be placed into VLAN 10. And I have admin authorization profile. Going to be permit VLAN, going to be 10. Okay, so I have admin authorization profile, AD users, and LAN authorization profile. Just make things simple. AD user profile. Okay, so I have my downloadable ACLs and authorization profiles. So everything ready to start deploying the policy sets. And the policy sets, we're going to name bulk tag enterprise policy set, and I want these to be checked against nope, against the location, device location. It has to be bulk tag and has to be a switch. Okay, so I want this policy to be validated against devices in this location and that are switches. As for authentication, I'm going to use my authenticator source store. For authorization, so the first is going to be ID users, just saying authorization policy. So if it's a domain computer, and if it's a domain computer, I want you to be AD user. Let me duplicate this. And if it's an admin, so if it's an admin, you should have access to everything. Admin and 802.1x. So if it's domain, if it's a user name of domain admins, and it is being validated using 802.1x, then you should have access to admin profile. As for below, the last one is going to be LAN authorization policy, and this is going to validate based on the identity group. No, that's not it's group name, and it has to be if it's a workstation, and that, and if it's map, wired map, and if it's wired map, then it's going to be assigned the LAN authorization profile. So just check AD users, domain computers. So admin authorization, wired 802.1x, has to be domain admin. LAN authorization, that's for workstations only. And it has to be wired map. Okay. Looks okay, so save that and test our policy. Okay, and looks like it was successfully authenticated already. and it authentication policy. Want to confirm whether authentication policy, the authorization profile, authentication policy using default. That's not what I want. Okay, so let's flip the link and see if it's the policy we just created. So shut this. And I want this to refresh every 3 seconds. Okay. Okay. Nice looking different. Let me see. Yes, it is hitting our authentication policy created. That's okay. And authorization policy, it's hitting this one as well. Okay, yeah. And now it shouldn't be able to access 8888. That's great. But should be able to reach local resources. That's awesome. So you can see that for Linux PC, the ACL was deployed successfully. So you can have more details on this. And show authentication session each. Okay, got the IP address, authorized single host, and it was assigned VLAN 10, and this is the ACL that was downloaded, and the method authentication map, and I can see the show access list. Where is it? It's right here. So this is the ACL that was downloaded from ISE, and if I issue the show interface, yes, right, status, I can see that O2 was assigned VLAN 10, although I don't have VLAN 10 assigned manually. Okay, so map is working just like the way I want. So now let's enable the supplicant on Windows PC and test that as well. Okay, so let's enable the service 82.1x authentication service and manage and services. So that should be voided auto config. Yeah, this one. 82.1x authentication. Okay, done, and I want this to be automatic. Okay. And then we have to change some parameters at the interface. Enable 82.1x authentication, yes. Don't fall back to unauthorized access. I'm not going to use certificates. Enable fast reconnect. and use my Windows logon password, and now additional settings. I want to use user or computer authentication. Okay, and close. Okay, so right now he will try to authenticate. Let me just restart. So let's try to log in as Celesio. And Celesio is not part of admins, so you should have limited access. And I enabled the bug on the switch just to look at what's happening. Got some problem. He's trying to authenticate. It didn't receive an IP address, so it wasn't authenticated yet. It failed. Okay, let's see. Authentication failed. Really? Kind of makes. Should be authenticated, not authorized. Okay, let me sign out and try to sign in as the administrator. Okay, so we have a situation of egg and chicken. I can sign in with a different user because I can't reach my domain PC or my Active Directory, and for some reason I'm not being authenticated. So okay, so finally I managed to get the 802.1x authentication to work, but I had to add another PC because it looks like there is a problem. This one just crashed. And let me just show what are the steps. So first at the interface port, I just copy and paste the configurations from port 1 where I'm enabling 802.1x, and this is just the timeout period. And right now the port is down. The PC, to enable the supplicant, I had to do is to enable the service for 802.1x. This is under services and wired. Go to wired auto config and yes, start the service. And we might want to make this to start up automatic. Once the service is enabled, should see a new tab on the NIC properties, authentication, And here we're going to select is to enable 802.1x authentication. Disable the checkbox if for not using certificate authentication, and here just tick the automatically use Windows logon name and password. Okay. And additional settings, we're going to select specified authentication mode to be the user or the computer authentication. Okay, so with this in place, going to do now is just to restart the PC so that this change take effect, and I'm going to bring the interface up. So it's going to be quite fast, and I can take a look by running the debug .1x event, and I can see as well here. So it already detected Celesio as the user, and it should hit the first authorization policy. Oh, already validated that. Okay, it's already, yeah, that's why we have with host Windows PC, yes, 80 users, and then because of the profile it's part of the domain admin, so the user was placed in this profile, in this authorization profile. So although I haven't logged in yet, but if I check the show authentication session G3, that's details. Yes, right now it's not authorized, but it was already assigned an IP address. Okay, and yes, authentication, so was successfully authenticated. So now once a login is going to be authorized, so it's exchanging the IP packets, and you see as well here the ACL is going to be downloaded based on the authorization profile. And if I look again here, it was assigned another IP address, so change of authorization occurred, and it's the username, and now it's authorized. And you can see the ACL was downloaded to allow all traffic. And if I look at the Linux PC, it can't reach internet, but this user it should be able to access the internet based on his profile. And that's okay. So I have a network access control based on the user profile. So right now it's working as expected. So we're going to proceed with the next task on the next one.